it was going to be coming in really into the season, that we knew that this wasn't going to be a playoff team. And before we talk about what we should expect in the second half, let's sort of reminisce on what the first half was, and I'll let you take it away, and then I can have some points to rebuttal. So go right ahead. Let's dissect the first half of the 2019 Blue Jays season.
Yeah, so in the first half of the season, we came into the expectations of not much, but we were excited to see young players such as the potential call-up of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that did happen, and to see the promise of other youngsters such as Kevin Biggio, which we already have seen, and Bo Bichette, who is still in AAA Buffalo after an injury-riddled first half. But he's back in the flow now. So the first half, we weren't expecting much, so we had a solid rotation of Marcus Stroman, Aaron Sanchez, Matt Shoemaker, Trent Thornton as our fourth starter, and our fifth starter, I believe. Did we have a fifth starter at the beginning?
We never really did, and that's something I wanted to mention, that they never really had a fifth starter all year long. Brian Borucki hasn't pitched at all this season. He's yet to debut. Clayton Richard was sort of supposed to fill that role, but he didn't come in until June. And then they sort of just had guys like Edwin Jackson, Ryan Fairbairn, Sean Reed Foley made a few starts. They ran a couple openers. Pannone made a few starts. So, yeah, just no stable rotation spot in that fifth slot really all season long.
Yeah, there wasn't really a stable situation in the rotation, to say the least, with the injuries of Matt Shoemaker, which was certainly very sad, and sad to see as another injury for him, a guy who has been dealing with injuries for some time now. And he was having a great season for the Blue Jays. If he kept that up, undoubtedly he would have been an all-star for the Blue Jays this season. And maybe, just maybe, been in the Cy Young competition. Maybe that's a stretch. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, based on Matt Shoemaker's career history, you could have probably predicted that at some point he'd get injured, or at the very least not continue the pace that he was going at. But you never know. And with the 5 starts, only made 5 starts before getting injured in Oakland. He put up really gaudy numbers on the pitching side, just unbelievable job from him, and it just never seemed like he got hit around. I can't remember one start, really, where he didn't pitch great, and it's unfortunate because this could have been a Blue Jays reclamation project, that they could have turned a guy who's been hurt all season into, as you mentioned, a potential all-star. So, really unfortunate, and what's unfortunate was that the starting pitching actually got off to a really nice start. We mentioned Shoemaker's dominance. Marcus Stroman, he's sort of been the common denominator. He's looked good all year long. But then Aaron Sanchez, who we talk a lot about him, how disappointing he's been, but he actually got off to a pretty decent start at the beginning. It sort of started to unravel around late May. And then Trent Thornton, who has been a pretty reliable starter, although a little inconsistent. And then, as we mentioned, no fifth starter. Ryan Borucki was supposed to pitch a big role for this team, and we haven't even seen him yet. So I think the starting pitching, it had the potential to be good. It got off to a good start, but unfortunately just never really materialized.
Yeah, on that point, the Jays seem to have luck with finding these reclamation projects, and they're really good with finding these hidden gems in the free agent market. Some fans like to say dumpster diving for Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, but sometimes they find gold with these transactions, such as David Phelps. Who else? John Axford the last year.
Daniel Hudson has had a pretty nice season.
Yeah, Daniel Hudson. They picked him up in spring training, actually. Just these guys that we don't expect to have a major role. And last but not least, Eric Sogard, who has had an amazing first half for the Blue Jays. And before I talk about Eric Sogard and his amazing start at the first half, and then Freddie Galvis, we could talk about Charlie Montoyo. So Charlie Montoyo, it was his first year as a Blue Jays manager. Coming into the season, he's a young, energetic manager who seemingly loves to bunt and play small ball for the team. And in the early goings, it was kind of working for him in his favor. He'd find plays, he'd find guys to get on base, but for the Blue Jays, it's been hard for them in the first half and the beginning of the first half of the season, April, May, to get guys on base. And I remember at one point, was it the Cleveland series, where we absolutely got crushed. I think we got swept from April 4th to 7th.
Yes.
There was and fans were going crazy. It was we lost the series against Baltimore, the first series. It was the second series. And then we went on to Cleveland, where we absolutely get crushed. And we couldn't manage to hit the ball. We scored a total of, I believe it was 5 runs in that whole series.
That Cleveland series was brutal.
Yeah, it was just brutal. And then Charlie Montoya would still just manage to find positives out of those games. So from the get-go, the Blue Jays have not been a very good hitting team. We saw Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who in the beginning of the season was atrocious at defense. He was not a very good hitter, but then he gets recalled. He gets sent down to Buffalo, and then he gets recalled, and all of a sudden from May 24th on, he's such an amazing hitter. So maybe in the early on, we don't know what was happening with this team, but even that Giants series down, I believe it was more close in the Cleveland series, but we still got swept in those 2 games. It's kind of hard to watch. It's kind of like a series, a pattern.
No, I think we split the Giants series. Is it the one in San Francisco you're talking about?
No, the one where they came here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I believe, was it when Kevin Pillar was traded?
Yeah, Kevin Pillar definitely played for the Giants in that series.
Yeah, but just summarizing my point, that we weren't really a good hitting team, and we've seen that as, I believe we were bottom 3rd in every single category of hitting in average.
Yep.
So,
I have the numbers right here. 29th in batting average, 27th in on-base percentage, 25th in OPS, 26th in stolen bases. So not so much bottom 3rd, but
bottom
25.
Yeah.
Bottom 25 to 30 in every category. The only category that they're even above league average in is home runs. They have 14th in home runs, which has sort of helped a little more enjoyable, make the games a little more enjoyable, because home runs are obviously fun. But yeah, that Cleveland series, that really resonated with me for a second, because I go back to thinking about that series, and my initial thought was, if it's going to be like this, it's going to be unbearable to watch for 2 years. But fortunately, they were able to at least get some positives going. But yeah, that Cleveland series brings up just bad memories, and I think fans really lost hope at around that. Because even going into the season, even if you're not contending, you're still somewhat contending. You're still always at least a possibility of being a wild card team. But I think fans threw in the towel right away.
Yeah, and then I believe the strikeouts numbers were absolutely insane in those 4 games. And that's one problem with the Blue Jays. Do you have the strikeout numbers?
Unfortunately, not in front of me. This is just the basic score numbers on their offense, but no strikeout numbers present. I'm sure we can dig some up and then mention it on the other pod or tweet it out maybe. So we'll get those another time.
So the strikeout numbers in the beginning of the season were very high for the Blue Jays, and coming into the season, we expected to have contact hitter on the teams with Brandon Drury, and he was one of those guys who got off to a very brutal start for the team. I believe he was hitting under 100, under the Mendoza line. Same with Danny Jansen. Danny Jansen wasn't striking out too much, but he wasn't putting the ball in the air or play. But with Freddie Galvis, he was one of those guys that got actually into a very hot start from the beginning. And he was one of those guys. Was he the guy in the Cleveland series that actually tied it up in one of those games with a home run? Was it?
He was the only one that was hitting in that whole series. I think he hit a few home runs. That was it.
Yeah.
That was their whole offense.
Basically then. And then for the whole month of April, we waited till that one special date, April 26th, the debut of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And for me, that was one of the best games of the season, because they walked it off with that Brandon Drury home run. Just the excitement back in Toronto with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. up. And do you just want to take it away from here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually going to mention that very game. That game, regardless of the result, was the highlight of the season for me, because with all the talk about how bad the Blue Jays are going to be and how terrible they are and all that day, it seemed that none of that really mattered. It seemed that was the gateway into the new era, the era that we all hope and we all believe will bring success to the Blue Jays with a generational talent like Vlad Guerrero Jr. Overall in that game, not so much a particularly memorable game, aside from the fact that they won off the walk-off, but Vlad, he went 1 for 4 with a double, so not a bad game, obviously, but nothing too spectacular out of the realm of, I guess, surprising anyone, but certainly a day that you'll remember, because with the lack of success from the Blue Jays the last few years, and even before that, it seemed that April has never been about the Blue Jays. And with the Raptors and the Leafs, 2 teams that were primed for playoff runs this season, and especially the Raptors. Leafs not so much, but it was every day. It was either what are the Raptors doing, what are the Leafs doing. The Jays were so much of a, I guess they were just forgotten until that day. It was all about the Blue Jays. It was all about introducing Vlad Guerrero Jr. to a team, and it just brought back that hype for a day about the 2015-2016, the playoff runs, the hype surrounded around this team that it just really hasn't existed over the last few years or so. So just to relive some of that hype and excitement for a day was certainly the moment of the season for me, and the walk-off certainly helped. And I actually went to the game the next day, and it was a lot of fun, too. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and then we played the Athletics twice in 1 week, and we swept them in both series. So the excitement was back in Toronto, and then they went off to the Angel series, and that was pretty brutal for the Blue Jays there, too.
Brandon Drury, with the exception of all the games against Oakland, has been absolutely terrible. Like the season, if you think about it, all his season highlights and all his hits have come against Oakland. All the big hits that he's had, and other than that, nothing after that.
True. Kind of reminds me of Ezekiel Carrera when he always played good against Oakland.
Yeah, and Seattle. I mean, he played really well in Seattle too. I remember he I believe there was a stat where I think he had 5 home runs as a Blue Jay, and 3 of them were in Seattle or something like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I remember something crazy about that.
Yeah. I kind of miss Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, I miss, he's sort of a spark plug. I mean, you plug him in, and then he'd sort of steal a few bases for you, and he did have some big hits. He had a big hit in the wild card game, but I certainly don't miss him overthrowing the cutoff man every time a guy was running second. He just did not have a great baseball IQ, and we could talk a lot about Zeke. He was a knucklehead, but he was our knucklehead, so yeah, I guess I see what you mean.
Yeah, and kind of shifting focuses from knuckleheads. We're going to go on to surprises of the first half. So we mentioned how the Blue Jays had an up and down first half of the season, not having a great April and not really having a great May. They turned it around a bit, just a little bit in June, but with the offense, not with the results they wanted in wins. But now we're in July, and our offense is heating up with Gurriel leading the way. So we had an up and down season first half so far with some positives, but it's a rebuild year. We have to remember that, and we just have to look for the positives. So now we're going to shift focus to surprises of the first half, and who would have known that our leader in WAR for Blue Jays batters is Eric Sogard. Am I right?
I believe Gurriel is number 1.
No, I'm on Fangraphs right now. It says 1.9, and Gurriel's 1.8.
Oh, okay. There's a difference between Fangraphs WAR and Baseball Reference. I'm on Baseball Reference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but even on Baseball Reference, I think he's second. So yeah, he's definitely there. He's definitely up there.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Eric Sogard's first half?
Eric Sogard's first half, which obviously is surprising considering the kind of player that Eric Sogard has been for his whole career, but I mean, I'm not surprised in the fact that it's baseball and stuff happens in baseball. And we mentioned earlier on in this podcast about how these reclamation projects, these low names that no one really gets excited about, no one really hears about, that happens every year. It's not just a Blue Jays thing. They're not necessarily dumpster diving. Teams do this. They sign depth moves, and often these moves can end up working out. You sign 20 guys, one of them can end up being a key player. Think back to Chris Colabello. Could you imagine if someone told you at the beginning of 2015 that Chris Colabello would end up being an integral part of the team that fans legitimately wanted to keep beyond that season? I've seen it too often to be all that surprised, but you can't not be surprised at all with Eric Sogard, a guy who, for the majority of his career, has been a backup middle infielder to all of a sudden hitting 300 and an OPS well above 800. So I'm still expecting that sort of dip down a little bit, but just because it's just the numbers, it's just the odds. I mean, the odds of success eventually are going to go down because water reaches its regular levels. I understand that, but he's not so much getting lucky. He's looked really good, even on defense and at the plate. He's got a spectacular approach. He's been the leadoff man for the whole season, and he's done a great job in that role. The Blue Jays haven't had a leadoff man since Ben Revere, and that's been a check off the checklist. He's taking pitches, he's walking, he's having good at-bats, putting on good swings. He's been everything that the Blue Jays wanted and 10 times more. That's basically all I can say about Eric Sogard. Just unbelievable surprise.
Yeah, and he's